All right. So the sound has characteristics and they are important to recognize, and even with you and with your ear. Now we are going to stop to talk a little bit of sound, and we are going to talk about our ears. Everyone knows that we have like our ear, the sound goes inside, and you have bones that click together and they are translated to an electrical pulse that goes to your brain. So the studies say that the human being can listen frequencies in 20 hertz till 20 kilohertz, or that can be 20,000 hertz. What is a hertz is important to recognize, because a hertz it can be explained in like times per second. So if I am talking to you that frequency of the sound is 20 hertz, it means that that sound wave that is traveling through the air is moving 20 times in just 1 second. So that is really important, because our ears can catch this. Since 20 hertz, the sound waves is just moving 20 times in 1 second, traveling to the space till 20,000 hertz, and that is a really fast frequency. It's a frequency you have to, I can imagine a particle moving 20,000 times in just 1 second traveling, and that is really important. Our ears can hear this. When the bones are just clicking and translating this to an electrical impulse, we have another special organ in our ears. I don't know the name in English, sorry. It's called cochleus, maybe. And the scientific says that inside of the cochleus you have like 20,000 special cells. And they say that each one of those cells is dedicated to decoy each frequency. And a fun fact maybe that will help you to understand some stuff is that this is the ideal human being. It's like no one can hear through 20 to 20. It's like mostly of the people can hear 40, 45 to 16 kilohertz maybe, because when you are growing up, in the way you are going older, you stop hearing that. It's like you are losing through here and it's cutting. That is why old people can hear you clearly, because just with age you are losing this. So there are some theories that are not comproved by now, but you can tell that it's mostly true, that babies has all these cells and all his hearing system like perfect, so they can hear to 20 to 20, and they are growing up, so they are losing that. And the other stuff is like, it's really funny too. For me, it's funny. I love this, but I told you that the sound goes through an elastic medium. So a baby that is in his mother's womb is surrounded by liquid, so the sounds travel really fast. So the baby is just 9 months hearing the heartbeat of his mom really loud, really loud. You have to imagine that if you do this and you touch this, you can feel it really loud. It's like really overwhelming. So when the baby is born, that is why they can sleep really good even when it's really louder, because they are just so used to hear something really loud that they don't mind if you are having a band playing beside them. They can just really sleep. And while they are growing up, their ears like really begin to stay in a normal state and can hear everything good. And last one with that is that you know what is a perfect pitch ear? It's like you can difference every note. Like if someone play a chord, you can say, okay, that is a C sharp 9 or whatever. Yeah, it's like every human being can develop that, but just in your childhood. So there's some kind of special training that you can do to your baby to develop this, to understand frequency and to recognize it. And if you are gonna be a musician, that would be really perfect, because you can just listen a song and know what note is. Would be really sad if you train your kid to understand that and he hate music. It's like funny. So to keep talking about sound and their characteristic, we already know that it's a mechanical wave that travels through an elastic medium. It has like frequency that is really important, because it doesn't make sense that we can work with frequencies that we can't hear. So frequencies that we can't hear that are below 20 hertz is called subsounds, like the whales, the animals in the oceans. Yeah, they communicate with that kind of sounds. We can't hear that. And the ultrasound that is going beyond there, that dogs, for example, there is some special like equipment that you push a button and it has a loud sound, but just the dog can hear it and they stop barking and stuff like that. But human beings, we cannot hear it. So we are gonna keep talking about some characteristic of the sound that will be important to going further with that. So we already talked that a human being can hear 20 to 20 kilohertz. Mostly of the time is just a graphic with frequency here and maybe volume here on dBs. So you can make a graphic, for example, the sound of my voice probably will be here, will be like this, because mostly of the frequency doesn't actually hear. I can reproduce frequency so low, but the mostly of them are in the mid-range. So that kind of graphic is important to understand like that. When you see something like that with frequency versus level of time, is that it's like you are seeing the whole spectrum of the sound, and you can recognize where is the most important energy, like in the mid-range or in the high range, because you are going through frequencies really low or really slow, the oscillation in the air, versus really fast. So it's moving fast, it's a really high frequency. And the other graphic you can have is just time versus level or volume in dBs. Okay? So it's important to recognize this, because there are sounds that doesn't start and doesn't finish the same. So for example, time versus level will be if we make a graphic of the sound of snare of a kick drum. It will be when you kick it, instantly you will have the sound, like pushing really hard at the beginning, you have the harmonic composition and the sound just go really fast. So the sound will have an attack. The sound will attack really fast. Will have a really long, really short. How it's called in English? Sorry. Sustain, and then the tail that is called the decay or release or whatever in the compressors that we are gonna be talking later. So this is very important because, for example, guitar chord or whatever, it will not start really fast like a really hit of a percussion instrument. Will maybe take a long time to start the sound, and it will stay a lot of time. The sustain will be really long, and then the tail will end. So learning all of this is really important because we'll define why and how we construct and how we create microphones. What is the sense of creating a microphone or whatever, or a speaker or stuff like that. Okay, so with this, what is important to recognize? Frequency, speed of traveling in the space or in the material or stuff like that, and the time that takes to a sound wave to develop to end. And it is important to recognize that is sound is traveling through an elastic medium. So for example, that is important because in a mix board, it can be analog mix board or digital mix board, you are not modifying, you are not working with sound. That's important because you are not under that definition. Mechanical wave moving through an elastic medium. That is not a mechanical wave, it's electricity moving there. So for example, you can't modify sound. You can't. It's really hard to do that. Maybe you can filter it. I don't know if you sometimes can put big headphones and you put something between the headphones and your ears, you can hear the highs. Or if I am talking with you, if I just cover my mouth, I am modifying what you hear because I am filtering it. I am cutting some frequencies. We talk about frequency. I am cutting some frequencies. You can hear me in the same way. If I just cover the microphone like this, you will not hear me in the same way. So it's practically, you can't modify sound, you can filter it sound. But what you are modifying in a mix board or stuff like that is audio, and that's important.